Joining me now on set, Molly Ball, the national political correspondent for Time Magazine, Symone Sanders-Townsend, the former senior advisor to Vice President Harris, host of Symone on MSNBC, and Stephen Hayes, the editor, CEO of The Dispatch, as well as an NBC News political analyst. And I didn't even bring up the whole Ukraine and the disaster funding there, because I think that is going to be. But Molly, I know we're all so used to Washington being dysfunctional, and there's sort of a, like, Mitch McConnell to me is a symbol of somebody that figures out how to find function in dysfunction. But now we may not have him around, and this really looks like we're going to hit another level.
Yeah, you know, along the lines of what Julia was just saying, my sources in Congress mostly feel like the shutdown is a matter of when, not if. It just looks impossible to get out of. Now, on the other hand, we have seen Kevin McCarthy get out of a series of jams over the course of this year.
Debt ceiling is the biggest one.
And the debt ceiling was a huge test for him, and he passed it. And they did get a deal. And
but whose test did he pass?
Well,
did he pass the test of Washington because he got it funded? Because I don't think the Freedom Caucus likes the deal he cut.
They don't like the deal he cut, but they did go along with it, and they have been sort of casting about for ways to exert leverage ever since. And so this is the next jam he has to get out of, and he knows, and you can tell from the way he's talking about it, that he knows he's going to have to give them something. They are already making demands, and it's just a matter of whether they can come to some kind of a... And, you know, I think the Freedom Caucus is in a very interesting position here, because they also have to decide whether they are negotiating in good faith or whether their actual goal is to shut down the government, right? Is that what they want? Because they have in the past really been more interested in sort of obstruction than deal making. So is there a deal to be had with them, or do they see the shutdown as the goal?
Stephen, I want to back up a second, though, because I really feel like more than ever, we just see this glaring divide inside the party. Senate Republicans are in one place, House Republicans are in another, and they really are reflective of MAGA wing of the Republican Party nationally, establishment wing of the Republican Party nationally.
Yeah, very much. And I think to Molly's point, it could be very well that the House Republicans, particularly the Freedom Caucus, want the shut. Like, that's the goal. That's not a means to an end.
And I hate to say, Trump's asking for these things.
And if you think about it in the context of the promises that Joe Biden made when he was running for president, I can govern through this. I can bring people together. They're not crazy for thinking that. If people look at Washington and they say, look, this is just more chaos, we're all going to sit around here and say, like, wow, look at what the Freedom Caucus did to try to leverage Kevin McCarthy. People aren't paying attention to that. They're going to look at Washington and say, no, this is totally dysfunctional. And Joe Biden is in charge of Washington.
And Symone, we're only talking about the Washington portion of this. Yeah. We haven't talked about it. I mean, some trials starting in Atlanta. You know, I don't think it's going to be the one that features Trump yet, but it's going to feature Trump's evidence. That's also going to add to this. And you can't tell me, and there are some people who are angling for impeachment simply as a way to counter-program.
It's just, you know, you ask about the Freedom Caucus and what they want, and I would also argue the various wings of the Republican Party apparatus around the country, like there's a divide in Georgia between the Republicans in the State House and the governor, right? Some Republicans in the State House. And the question is, do you want to be right or do you want to win? That's what I used to talk about when, you know, I come from progressive politics, working with the Sanders wing of the party. Always we would have these conversations. Do you want to be right or do you want to win? Because sometimes if you want to win, you have to forego what you think is right,
whatever
whatever your right is to get the thing done. I think that there are far more, again, this is a small group of people, but they've got loud microphones in the Freedom Caucus in the House, but also some of these Republicans across the country in these state legislatures. Small group, large microphones, and I think that they really just want to be right. They do not want to win.
It is interesting, though. Kevin McCarthy doesn't want to force these guys to have to vote on this stuff.
That's right.
Which tells you he knows it's bad politics, which tells you I don't know which wing of the party McCarthy actually belongs to.
Well, and he's done that quite artfully, actually, right? I would argue that the way he was able to get something like the debt ceiling done is by giving the far right a lot of what they want, so that, and they're under no illusions that he's actually one of them, I think, sort of spiritually. But he has done a lot of the things that they want and allowed them to be a bigger part of the process than they were certainly under any previous Republican speaker. So, you know, but at the same time, that debt ceiling deal passed with more Democratic than Republican votes, and they do not want to see him do that again. And that is, it looks like the only way that something is going to get done is with a substantial amount of Democratic votes, just because the Republican majority is so narrow. So it's a very, very tricky needle to thread for him.
How does this get done without McConnell?
I don't know. I don't have any idea. I would not want to go out on that limb.
That's what I mean. Like, this doesn't feel like this feels, I know, you know, you're sort of like, whatever you think of McConnell, he knows how to land the plane in rocky.
He does.
He's a pilot that knows how to land in terrible situations.
He does, and I do think it was meaningful that on the front end of this, he was sort of saying, this isn't me. Like, I'm not.
And he's
been
there before all of it, right?
Yeah,
like, there is some principle.
I do think he was smart to say that, and Mitch McConnell does everything he does for a reason. He doesn't say things by accident. He doesn't freelance. So this was, I think, planned. To Molly's point about Kevin McCarthy, I was talking to a Republican member of Congress who said, in effect, Kevin McCarthy really doesn't believe anything. It's not just that he's not part of the House Freedom Caucus. This is somebody who doesn't believe anything. He's a player. He's a political player. Getting to be Speaker was the goal here. Figuring out how to maneuver and
he just lives.
Work
Well, they
together.
say if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Kevin McCarthy.
Symone, both the impeachments on Clinton and the first one on Trump, they both saw an approval rating bump. Clinton a lot, Trump mildly. In a weird way, could Republicans be doing the Biden campaign a favor by rallying the base if they end up essentially forcing an impeachment? Could it end up boomeranging on them like this?
I think it depends on how aggressively the White House fights this. And I think that's why their war room operation that our NBC News reporters are... Are
you surprised they're doing this quickly?
No. I think that they understand that this could be quite damaging because, to Stephen's point, people are not paying attention like we are, okay? We're the political professionals, if you will. But folks like my mother and my sister who's like, wait, is Donald Trump going to jail or not? We don't. And I'm like, we're not even there yet, folks. Hold on.
Right.
They're not watching the posturing. All they see is the members of Congress are saying that the president did this. Did he do that? I don't know. It seems untoward when there's no untowardness there. So the White House has to fight it aggressively to ensure that the people understand that this is nothing but political games and they're playing with your tax dollars and not doing their jobs.
What's this October 23rd, if that's when that first trial starts, even if it's Kenneth Cheesebro, right? And that's the first trial that starts in Atlanta, and it's televised. And every cable channel's covering it, and you're carrying it and all this stuff. Do we even have any idea what that environment looks like?
Well, look, on the one hand, obviously, giant media circus and people are glued to their screens. But I wonder if people's appetite is waning for all of this drama. I do wonder if, the conduct alleged, while obviously very important and serious, and I don't want to take anything away from that, if people feel like, okay, this is something that happened a while ago. And I think we see this with, a lot of the Trump stuff, that people are tired of the sort of constant sort of noise machine. And I hear from a lot of people that they've tuned out all of it. So I do wonder if, we're not talking about the Nixon impeachment hearings or even the first Trump impeachment hearings where there was a real sense of tension.
Steve, I keep getting asked the same question when I'm doing my talk to the affiliates today to talk about Sunday's Meet the Press, which is this going to help or hurt Trump? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do.
Right.
I can make a case that it galvanizes the supporters. I can make a case that the January 6 hearings did do some damage to him over time.
Right.
So, I don't think it's going to be good for the country.
Right. I mean, I think it depends to a certain extent on how much people pay attention, obviously. Yeah. Can his supporters be more galvanized than they are? What does that look like? What does that mean?
What does more galvanized look like? I agree. I don't know.
Let's say that Trump has 35% of the Republican Party, the hardcore MAGA base, 35. Are they going to be more MAGA?
I'm scared, Stephen. What is more MAGA January 6th?
So really, I'm scared about that. Really, I'm worried about that. I mean, I do think there's so much volatility heading into the next 14 months. These trials, I mean, what we've just seen, the reaction to the Proud Boy trials. I mean, the Proud Boys, to me, it's like white hat, black hat. These are bad guys. And you're seeing people say, they're jailing these guys, Iraq War veterans as political prisoners. Time to pick up the guns.
It is scary, the rhetoric that's happening on the very far right over there. Symone.
Very concerning. And I think that is why, look, I think what is happening in Georgia is very important because it is accountability. We didn't have it. We only got a mugshot because of Fani Willis and the sheriff in Georgia. We are going to be able to see inside the courtroom because of Fani Willis and the Georgia laws.
This should put some pressure on federal judges.
I think so.
We should get all audio. You can't look. I accept the no camera. But the Supreme Court gave us live audio. There's no reason why a federal court can't do live audio. Anyway, Molly, Symone, Stephen, happy Friday. Enjoy this amazing weather today. So thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.